Time speeds up when you start talking, doesn't it? Oui. May we. We actually have something very important to do this evening yet. And this is a contemplation that I like to conclude each retreat with. And so for this contemplation, I should have mentioned this last night, so you will be prepared. But it will be very helpful to have a notebook and something to write with available to you during the meditation, actually. Because there's a bit of a writing exercise that I think will be very helpful to you. And so here at the end of this 10-day retreat, because you have withdrawn from all of the distractions of your daily life, and you have really devoted your mind to these practices of trying to understand the nature of your own mind, the nature of reality, your mind is in a very unique place right now. Maybe not unique, but a place that you have spent time cultivating. And so it would be very good to be able to create a little document that captures some of the wisdom that you may be experiencing right now. And so the way that we will do this then is as what I think of as contemplation rather than meditation. And so with this contemplation, what we are going to be doing is settling body, speech, and mind in their natural states. And then this, when we are resting in this natural state of the mind, this really opens your mind to the wisdom of intuition. So rather than making decisions by reasoning and weighing the advantages of this versus that, and then making a spreadsheet of cost and benefit and all of that, and doing a real thorough analysis. The way that people actually make decisions, cognitive science shows, is that we actually make decisions intuitively and based on emotion. And then we use reason and rationality to justify the decision that we've already made. And we believe that we are, being reasonable people by weighing all of the alternatives. But actually what we're doing is just justifying what we have already decided to do. And so intuition is a very, very powerful way of navigating our lives and making decisions. And a way of actually cultivating intuition and accessing the wisdom of intuition is by getting into this state of the natural state of the mind. Because the source of this intuition is your pristine awareness. And so this is a way that it has of communicating with you. And so enough said about that. We can go right into the contemplation. So I guess one more thing to say. And that is that essentially you're going to pose a question. When you get into this stable, still, spacious awareness, I will just ask you to pose a question, and then you rest in the stillness and spaciousness of your awareness, and just listen in that silence for answers to the question that you have posed. And then when the answer comes to that, then it will be very helpful to you to have a notebook handy and then just begin writing. And it doesn't have to be in complete sentences. Just write without thinking, really. Just write spontaneously. And continue writing until you're finished, until it feels like you have exhausted this message of intuition. And it could be that you will finish writing, and then while other people are still writing, there will be a pause before we continue, and then you might feel another surge come up. And so just continue writing until you feel finished. And yeah, so I think that is enough to begin this contemplation. Begin by settling the body in its natural state. Releasing and relaxing. And finding that state of deep relaxation and release that's supported your deepest experiences of meditation. So on the exhalation, release physical tension. And also release all conceptual knowing of the body. Find the existential ease in which there are only tactile sensations, without them being my sensations in my body. And then settle the speech in its natural state. The state of effortless silence. The silence of the conceptual mind is required to hear the whisperings of intuition. So feel content with this silence without needing to fill it. And then settle the mind in its natural state. the luminous and knowing awareness that is still and spacious. And simply pose the question at the end of the retreat that you posed at the beginning of the retreat. What is my heart's desire? What is the highest potential of this life? What will define a life of meaning and purpose? And of course, this has to be your answer, not the correct answer, not the Buddhist answer, but only your answer will have the power to draw all of life's decisions into orbit around it. So simply pose that question while you rest in still awareness. What is my heart's desire? And when you hear an answer in this silence of still, spacious awareness, simply begin writing and continue writing until you're finished. This won't necessarily be the final definition of your heart's desire. It will change and evolve as you evolve. But this point in retreat, right here at the end, you have a perspective that is very valuable because of the uncluttered mind that you have now, the clarity of your sight, and your access to intuition. So you can use this as a document to guide you through periods of uncertainty about what you are doing and where you are going. And here is another question that becomes very practical in guiding what to do next. As you rest in this still, spacious awareness, simply ask yourself, 1 year from now, where would I like to be? What will be a signpost, an indicator that I am on the right path to actually achieving my heart's desire? You can call your heart's desire your long-range goal, and this point a year from now to be an intermediate goal. So what would be a good indicator that you are on the path to your heart's desire? And now from this vantage point of stillness and spaciousness and clarity, ask one more question. In order to reach this milestone 1 year from now, kilometer stone, an indicator that I am on the right path, what do I need to take up and what do I need to give up? How do I need to change my life? What things do I need to, what habits, I should say, do I need to break? And what habits do I need to develop? So when I go home, what do I need to do immediately in order to reach my goal for 1 year from now? And now bring to mind this intention that you have for changing your behavior, your attitudes, whatever habits that need to be changed as soon as you return home. And visualize at the center of your heart as a radiant orb the size of a pearl. Visualize your pristine awareness. This pristine awareness that merged with the pristine awareness of Padmasambhava in our morning prayers. And then on the inhalation, arouse the aspiration, may I have the courage to overcome the inner and the outer obstacles, to changing my habits in the way I know they need to be changed. Arouse that aspiration on the inhalation, and on the exhalation, visualize that your radiant orb of pristine awareness floods your body, saturating every cell, eliminating all obstacles to the achievement of what you know needs to be done. And then bring to mind this indicator that you would like to reach 1 year from now. That indicates to you that you are on the right path. And on the inhalation, arouse the aspiration. May all the changes that I make, beginning as soon as I return home, lead me without fail to the achievement of this intermediate goal, letting me know that I am on the right path. Arouse that aspiration on the inhalation. And again on the exhalation, visualize this orb of pristine awareness at your heart, flooding your body, saturating every cell, eliminating the inner and outer obstacles, and opening the way to realizing this intermediate goal. And now bring to mind your heart's desire. This great aspiration for meaning and purpose in your life. And your vision for it, your highest potential. And on the inhalation, arouse the aspiration. May all of the changes that I make and the achievement of my intermediate goal allow me to continue step by step along this path to reach this highest aspiration, however long it takes. Arouse that aspiration on the inhalation, and on the exhalation, visualize that this orb of pristine awareness at your heart fills your body, saturating every cell with radiant white light, eliminating every obstacle, inner and outer, to the achievement of this great aspiration for your life. And then simply visualize that you have reached your goal. This highest aspiration is your everyday reality. And rest in the joy of having traveled the path. And realizing that because you have been able to do it, now you can show others how to do it and become a model for everyone. Simply rest in that joy. Well, I hope that was a helpful and beneficial exercise for you. And that you keep this document that you have created as an insight into your aspiration for this life that was created during a period of exceptional clarity and spaciousness before you have returned home and all of the demands of your everyday life begin to seem to make decisions for you. And so this is from a space of perfect freedom. If I had the freedom to make anything come true, this is what it would be. So we can lose sight of that, I think, especially as we become older. When we're children, we have this feeling that we could become anything. You know, the world is simply a wonder of potentiality. And then as we grow older, it seems that maybe as disappointments of our ambitions, of our goals for ourselves begin to mount up. And as we begin to identify with those disappointments, we may lose our ability to think big and have big aspirations for our life. So let this be a document of inspiration for you. And let it guide your decisions when you reach a crossroads and you don't know which way to go. You can pull this document out and refresh your memory. If this is still a true goal for me, how does the decision that I make either contribute to moving me along the path towards that goal, or how does it become an obstacle to this goal? So I hope that your document your vision quest will guide you for at least until we meet again. And you can continue to ask yourself these questions. And you can continue to make use of this technique of contemplation. Anytime that you need to make a decision, or anytime you feel uncertainty, just go into this space of the natural state of the mind and access intuition and pose a question and just wait in silence for the answer. So we are all headed to the train station, or at least headed home tomorrow. These perfect conditions that we have experienced for the last 9 days are going to give way to all of the demands of home. And so how do we bring our practice home with us? What is it that we can take with us that informs our practice when we take up all the work, the family obligations, all of these things that can keep us so fully occupied when we get home? And so partly it depends on what your goal is and where you want to be 1 year from now. So it could be that in order to reach where you want to be 1 year from now, you may have to make some adjustments. And especially if your life right now is not an ideal support or a contributor to where you would like to be, you might have to make some adjustments. And so I think that actually one of the most important Dharma decisions that we make in our lives really involves lifestyle decisions. How much do I need? How much money do I need? What level of comfort do I need? All of these things, what our culture and advertising tells us are all the signs of a successful life. How many of those do I actually need? And do those actually contribute to my highest goal? Or are these somehow, is my obsession with these, or my engagement with these, does this somehow inhibit my progress towards my ultimate goal for myself? So these are very important to know. Lifestyle decisions. And I think in this, in creating a space within our lifestyle, or even phrasing it like that, lets you know that something is more important than what I was going to make room for. Dharma. Meditation practice. Dramtompa said, give up all attachment to this life and let your mind become Dharma. So if I do that, I'm not creating a little space in my busy life for Dharma, but all of my life, regardless of how busy it is, becomes Dharma. So it's said in Tibetan Buddhism that there are 2 sessions of meditation. There's your session on the cushion, and there's your session off the cushion. And so just some advice for your going home now, for your session on the cushion. The secret, remember, to developing Shamata is short, frequent sessions. And so it's very important that if you are interested in making progress in shamatha, that your meditation practice must be a daily practice. So it is not sufficient to just on Sunday say that I'm going to meditate 2 hours or 3 hours or 4 hours and not meditate during the rest of the week. I'm going to catch up on Sunday. You're not training the mind in that way, because training the mind and training your attention has to be continuous and it has to be consistent. So it's very important to make your meditation practice a daily practice. And so I'm sure that most of you already have a daily practice. And it could be that you have a lot of commitments already. And you might be in the same situation as somebody who doesn't have a daily practice. You think that you're already filled up, that you don't have room to develop shamatha practice. So here's a suggestion for how you can add, whether you have a practice already and you want to add shamatha to it, or whether you don't have a practice at all and you want to make a daily practice, but you're already quite busy and you're wondering, how can I possibly make time for a daily meditation practice in my life? I say, do it. You can have a meaningful meditation practice in as little as 1/2 hour a day. And it doesn't even take 1/2 hour all at one time. So remember at the very beginning of our retreat, we did 6-minute practices. And part of the point of that was, of course, to realize that its quality is more important than quantity. And that oftentimes, starting with short and frequent sessions is going to give you quality of stability and vividness, rather than doing a longer session that becomes distracted and dull, and you're falling asleep. So my suggestion is that you start the day with 12 minutes of Shamata practice, and along with perhaps whatever other practice you're already doing. But let's just say for this example that you're just starting a new practice, or that you don't have a practice and you want to add this practice. So 12 minutes begin with breath meditation, or whatever of any of these practices that we've been doing. But it can be as simple as just breath meditation. And do that for 12 minutes before you get busy. It's okay to have a cup of coffee or a cup of tea before you do your practice. But don't get involved with email, with the news, with conversation. If you need to, just get up a little bit early in order that you've got some time of peace and serenity, just to do 12 minutes. And the rest of your day will go much more smoothly because of that. And then throughout the day, remember the importance of short, frequent sessions. And so Lama Allen calls this seasoning the day, like adding salt to your soup. So you season the day with meditation. And so before you finish your lunch break, do one more 6-minute session. And this can again be just simple breath meditation. So if you have 6 minutes before your next appointment, for instance, instead of checking your social media or sports scores or whatever it is, waiting for you on your smartphone, take 6 minutes out, and you can do it in a chair, you can do it lying down. It doesn't have to be fancy or elaborate. Just take 6 minutes to reset your mind with breath meditation or whatever of these practices that we've been doing. And especially if your mind has been getting stressed out, or you're falling asleep. Also, if you're feeling lax and a little tired, this 6-minute break can really change the rest of your day. So sometime before the end of lunch break, so this allows you to fill the last 6 minutes of your lunch break just sitting and doing a breath meditation. And then sometime before dinner, do another 6 minutes. So just find a brief time, and wherever you see an opportunity, just add 6 minutes of meditation. So at this point then, before dinner, you now are up to 18 minutes. 24 minutes. So 12 minutes and then 2 6-minute periods. And then simply before you fall asleep, and this could be after you already are in bed, just do another 6 minutes of just doing shamatha practice of one sort or another of the practices that we've done. And all of these practices can be done with just breath meditation. And by doing that, you will be beginning to develop the habit of watching your mind, developing mindfulness and introspection with these short, frequent sessions. And this becomes much more powerful as training by doing it continually or steadily throughout the day than doing a longer period once per week, for instance. So this is a very easy way of really bringing meditation into your life and making it, and really allowing meditation to enhance your life, to change it, because all of your day is going to go better because of these brief breaks of shamatha practice. So short, frequent sessions is very important. And then, let's see, I have a list here. What else is important on the cushion? So it's said that one of the biggest obstacles to meditation practice and developing your meditation practice is laziness. And so this approach of short, frequent sessions can really overcome the laziness. Because laziness is, for, I would say, everybody in this room, is not a matter of not having enough drive or enough discipline. So it's not that. But I think for most people in this room, because I think all of you are highly motivated people, and I think that for most of us, laziness comes in the form of putting off meditation until we have the perfect conditions. So until retreat comes again, then I'll occupy myself with meditation. Or, when I get a new job, right now I'm too busy, then I will start meditating. Or when the kids go to school, are old enough to go to school, then I'll start meditating. Well, the perfect conditions are never going to come because the demands of your life are always going to fill any available time that you have unless you just make this transformative training of the mind a priority in your life. And then everything is a lot easier. And so eliminate laziness. And then it's also very helpful to meditate with friends and meditate in a community. So I know most of you are very fortunate to have Kalachakra Center as a hub of your community. So if not that one, something like that is very, very helpful. And also to be aware of the friendships that you cultivate. We all have friends for specific activities. I have my friends for skiing, I have my friends for hiking and climbing, I have my friends for, playing bridge, whatever. But your Dharma friends are very, very important so be conscious of the friendships that you cultivate and what it is that you are hoping to get out of these relationships. Because the truth is that close friendships, the friends begin to become similar. And so choose people to become friends with, cultivate friends among people that you would like to be like. So Dharma friendships are very, very powerful and supportive, and I think that you find after a number of years of just making Dharma a priority, that it's not long before almost all of your friendships are Dharma friendships. And I think really that's the case for me right now. I think of all of my close friends and everybody I hang out with over the course of a year in many different cities in the world even. And these are all Dharma friendships. except for a couple of my old college buddies. And of course, it's very important, and maybe this is the most important also, is to get results in your practice. So we don't strive for results, but that's part of getting results, because you have to start with relaxation, and you have an aspiration for your practice, but you're not demanding success. But you do want to get results. And basically that means that your mind is becoming more tranquil, your mind is becoming more serene, you're experiencing more peace. All of this is going to contribute to your continued practice, because if you're not getting results, you're going to begin to ask yourself, why am I doing this? And so discipline is only going to take you so far. And this may get you started in the practice, but if you're not getting results, then I would begin to investigate, why am I not getting what I know is possible out of this practice? And remember, as we started our retreat with, these words from Kalachakra, the critical point is to practice with zeal. Zeal does not entail mere diligence, but enthusiasm and an enduring quality of delighting in practice. If you practice with zeal, the signs of success in both the preliminary, and main phases of practice will occur. So this is what is, when you reach this point in your practice, if you haven't reached it already, where you're practicing with this enthusiasm for practice, everything then is easy in your practice, because you start sneaking away in order to practice. It's your guilty pleasure like chocolate. And you find opportunities. Your friends ask you to go to the movie, and you say, well, I'm busy tonight. Because what you really want to do is to get in a few gatikas. And so I do this all day long while I'm working, because I spend a lot of time on my computer preparing for teachings, preparing for retreats, and basically I write a lot. And so I have noticed that after about between 1 hour and sometimes 1.5 hours on the computer, my mind just begins to get dull. And I begin to feel mental fatigue. And so what I do right then is, rather than what I used to do when I was working as a journalist and working on deadline, would be to just continue to work, because you have no choice. And you just happen to be, now the work just becomes a lot more difficult. And there's a lot more effort involved in it. Now what I do is I sneak away. I go away, but it feels like you're, don't look, and I am going away to meditate. And so I do 1 or 2 gatikas, and then I go back to work. And by doing that, even though I might only be working, say, 5.5 hours with frequent breaks for meditation, I still get more done, I really believe, than I would if I had just worked 8 hours straight. So, but this is also because there's nothing I would rather be doing than meditating. And so I find every opportunity that I possibly can to just sneak in a gataka. Yeah. So there's a lot more that can be said, like disciplining your calendar. Don't overschedule yourself. Just get in the habit of saying no to requests for your time, and because you have an obligation to yourself that you have made, that I am reserving larger blocks of time for my own practice now. And so I'm just busy. Sorry, I don't have time. I'm busy. So you begin to just basically make your calendar around your priority of practice. And then one of the most important things to recognize, so that in our everyday life, that if we are really going to make progress in shamatha, we have to begin swimming upstream in our culture. We have to start acting in ways that are contrary to the ways that most people are behaving, and in the way that our culture would like to have us behave. And so one of those is constant media stimulation. So any moment of silence, I am picking up the phone and seeing who has texted me, or seeing the latest news, or whatever, social media. So by filling your mind constantly with that kind of stimulation, you are taking your mind further and further away from the single-pointedness of shamatha. And here is a very important point in regard to disciplining our engagement with these convenience devices. And that is to realize that these are intended to be a convenience and not to run our lives. And so research is almost unanimous in pointing out that one of the greatest impediments to focused attention that we are cultivating these days is multitasking. And so there is a belief, especially in people who grew up with these things, that they have developed a capacity that their parents just didn't have, a mental capacity. And that is that they can multitask, that they can do 2 things at once or 3 things at once, and be doing them and be a lot more efficient by distributing their attention and letting their attention be distracted from one thing to the next. But this is absolutely false. And research shows, frankly, that people who are multitaskers are up to 40% less efficient than people who are focused solely on an individual task, finish that task, and then move on to another task and give it their full attention. And so one of the keys for not multitasking, or I should say one of the most disruptive forms of multitasking that everyone just makes a habit now, is to have a notification whenever an email or a text message comes in. Or even a notification that there is a new news feed or something. You can get a notification of almost everything now. There is a new item on sale that you have been watching. Ping! And so it alerts you, and they're on your screen. And so you may be in single-pointed attention, composing the perfect polished paragraph for your report, and all of a sudden, ping! And you go off to see what's new in the inbox. And so every time you do that, one thing that happens is that it makes it much more difficult to come back. You can't just pick up where you left off when you go back to your task, because you have to do what is called cognitive rebooting. Just in the way that you reboot your computer, in English anyway, you have to reboot the cognitive process that was engaged with this task. And you lose tremendous efficiency by doing that. Another thing that happens when you are continually disturbed by the ping of the inbox is that every time your attention is distracted from something you are focused on, the physiological response is a secretion of cortisol, which is not an enzyme, but a hormone, yes, that is designed basically for fight or flight. So and then later the adrenal glands secrete adrenaline if it's needed, if you really need a fight or flight. But first of all is cortisol, the hormone. And so every time that you hear the ping of the inbox, there is a secretion of cortisol because your attention is disturbed. And I think of this as like our ancestors drinking at a water hole and hearing the snap of a twig behind them. You know, there is an alertness that happens. What's happened? And so over the course of a day of just continual multitasking and being disrupted, you build up this load of cortisol in your bloodstream, and it leaves you feeling irritated and anxious. And for many people anyway, because this takes, after you build this up, it doesn't dissipate very quickly, and especially if adrenaline has been secreted. That can take up to a couple of hours. So for most people, it takes aerobic exercise to burn it off. And if you don't do that, and you go to bed then with this whole daily load of cortisol in your bloodstream, what happens is that it can be very difficult to fall asleep. Or if you do fall asleep, what happens is that you wake up in the middle of the night and you are fully alert and thinking. And a lot of these thoughts can be of anxiety. And then just to mention that if you're very fortunate to have the leisure and fortune to basically design your lifestyle around Dharma practice, to give yourself all the time that you need for Dharma practice, or sufficient time anyway for Dharma practice. It's said that by the great masters of Shamata, or at least a couple of them that Alan cites, that you can make significant progress in Shamata with as little as 3 hours a day. So if you are able to devote, and Shamata becomes a real priority for you, then you can really do this in 3 hours a day. And this is 3 hours of Shamata practice, not 3 hours of visualization or mantra recitation or other practices, but 3 hours of the kind of Shamata practice that we've been doing. And it doesn't have to all be in one block either. But, you know, it can be a couple of Gatakas here, then a couple of Gatakas in the afternoon, and then a couple of Gatakas later. But 3 hours a day of Shamata practice is enough to begin to really make serious progress in developing Shamata. But there is a great asterisk then, a footnote, you could say, to that. And that 3 hours a day you can make progress, depending on what you're doing with the other 13 hours a day of conscious awareness. So if with the other 13 hours you are constantly on your iPhone or constantly being disturbed by the ping of the inbox, this 3 hours is not even going to be enough for treading water. You're going to just be taking one step forward and then one step back. Yeah. Or maybe 2 steps back, depending on if you became really mentally afflicted that day. So you really have to design the rest of your life. This is your session off the cushion, and begin to think of your engagement with the time that when you're not meditating as your meditation session off the cushion. And so Shamata practice really is a matter of focused attention and spacious awareness. But it's really withdrawing from the external world to practice, even for 6 minutes at a time. You're just taking 6 minutes to meditate. But Vipassana practice doesn't require that. So you can do Vipassana practice anytime, all throughout the day. And why would you rather be deluded than seeing truly a situation in front of you? Because it really is just a matter of your point of view, of the wisdom that you're bringing to a situation. And would you rather be deluded and mentally afflicted, or would you just rather see the situation for what it truly is? And so what in our Vipassana practice are you able to do in every interaction with every appearance of external reality? What is it that you're able to do with everything that you encounter? See it for what it is. All appearances are mind. If that's all of your Vipassana practice, your experience of everyday reality begins to change, because you are left wondering, where is the boundary between outer and inner? All of these appearances out there, if all of these appearances are mind, where is the boundary between outer and inner? And you can just be walking down the street, pondering that. All of this is mind. Where is the outer world? So all of that then, basically, so you do Shamatha practice, Vipassana practice, and you really begin to let your mind become Dharma, as Dromtampa said. And so Dharma practice, Lama Allen emphasizes, or in our Dharma practice, it's very important to have a balanced diet and not just focus only on Shamatha practice, because then we are going to become sick, or we're not going to have a well-rounded diet. So it's said that our Dharma practice is really a pyramid. And the pyramid, at the base of the pyramid, is ethics. So you can think of ethics as the laboratory in which we express our worldview. This is the way that we relate to other people and other beings. And so if we are unkind to other beings, it is only because of delusion. If we aren't kind to beings, it's because we see them as distinctly separate from me. And so if we bring wisdom to all of our encounters, we're going to see that this person is like me, wishes to be happy, wishes to be free from suffering, and that the boundary between me and other, if I can't find the boundary between external appearances while I'm walking down the street and appearances of mind, where is the boundary between me and other? How do I discover that? So the foundation for all of our Dharma practice is ethics. And then on top of that, we have samadhi, or Shamata. And it is going to be very difficult for you to make progress in samadhi if you are unethical in your behavior towards other beings. If you're cruel, or if you lie, if you steal, if you're lustful, all of these basically become obscurations to samadhi. So really, as Padmasambhava said, my view is as vast as space, but my conduct is as fine as barley flour. So even Padmasambhava was very, very careful about his conduct. So this is the foundation of ethics, the support in the pyramid of samadhi. And then on top of that is wisdom. So you develop, on the foundation of ethics, you develop samadhi, and then use that the samadhi to develop authentic realizations of wisdom. And with that wisdom, then, you cut through to pristine awareness and experience the true nature of reality, the true nature of your mind. Well, I think that's plenty. And I believe in your handouts, you have dedication prayer of His Holiness, the Dalai Lama. And so I think that would be a wonderful way to conclude our retreat. This is a prayer that His Holiness composed following the example of Shantideva. It's probably one of the last pages, I would imagine. Oh, well, they probably didn't all come at once, but... Is he making copies? Oh. Oh, of course. Right. So while the dedication text is coming, just recall the great... Oh. Well, we can share, and so are there enough to share read simultaneously? So simply bring to mind now all of the virtue that you have created over this 9 days. The powerful motivation that brought you to this retreat. What was it that you were hoping to get out of it? But to take a step along the path. And the only reason for doing that is so that you could be of benefit to others. And all of the virtue every morning, beginning at 6:30, dedicating all of your practice, all of the hours of the day, to immersing your mind in Dharma until dark. So what a tremendous amount of virtue that you have created over the 9 days of this retreat. And so then dedicate that virtue so that may all beings everywhere, plagued by sufferings of body and mind, obtain an ocean of happiness and joy by virtue of my merits. May no living creature suffer, commit evil, or ever fall ill. May no one be afraid or belittled with a mind weighed down by depression. May the blind see forms and the deaf hear sounds. May those whose bodies are worn with toil be restored on finding repose. May the naked find clothing, the hungry find food. May the thirsty find water and delicious drinks. May the poor find wealth, those weak with sorrow find joy. May the forlorn find hope, constant happiness and prosperity. May there be timely rain and bountiful harvests. May all medicines be effective and wholesome prayers bear fruit. May all who are sick and ill quickly be freed from their ailments. Whatever diseases there are in the world, may they never occur again. May the frightened cease to be afraid, and those bound be freed. May the powerless find power, and may people think of benefiting each other. May it be so. Well, I would just like to thank all of you for being here at this retreat, and Venerable Elizabeth for inviting me to come to this retreat, because along with meditation practice, there are two things that I really enjoy doing. One is meditating, and the other is talking about meditating. And so you have given me a double pleasure by inviting me. And I think that every teacher of Dharma knows that they really don't understand what they're talking about until they're forced to teach. And so it is such a great gift that people invite me to retreats to do teachings. because it really forces me to grapple with these teachings that I received from Alan Wallace, from Khandro Rinpoche, from other of my teachers. And without that, I would be, because I am lazy, I would be satisfied with just a simple knowledge of these things. And I would forget most of what Lama Alan has said, for instance. But because people ask me to teach, it forces me to truly try to understand what it is that I'm saying, and then, given the opportunity to say it over and over and over again, some small part of it finally penetrates. And then, so I benefit, I think, more than anyone who hears these words. And so I thank you all for giving me this opportunity, because it truly is a great, great gift that you give me. And then, of course, I thank Venerable Elizabeth, because I just assume from what I hear about her that she is probably the one who had the vision for this place. And so this place would not exist without her and her vision and her dedication to Dharma and to making this the highest priority, and the many gifts I know that she gives to people continually through Kalachakra Center. And then I could be speaking here for another 10 days, and you still wouldn't understand a word without my very able translator, Christoph. And so not only has Christoph translated all the words that come out of my mouth, yes, but he has also translated all of the texts that I sent at the last day, the day before the retreat, some 30 pages of texts of advice and instructions from these great lamas. And so you would not have that to take home with you if not for your very diligent efforts. Thank you. And then also creating a record of these teachings so that you will be able to hear these again if you choose to, and that these can be distributed to a wider audience if other people are interested. Thank you, Gwen, for the very demanding work
I have to add that I actually followed all the retreat before arriving here. Gwen was sending all the files one after the other.
He mentioned that. Yeah, extraordinary. Thank you, Gwen, for doing that. Yeah, so I do that for Alan Wallace in his retreats, and I know what a demanding job it is. There are so many things that go wrong all the time with audio. And so it's a sacrifice, in a sense, of time that he could be meditating and going non-conceptual, because audio requires conceptuality frequently. And so thank you for your very great sacrifice. And I hope that it bears fruit. And then, of course, thank you to Catherine. For making everything run so smoothly here, so that we don't have to think about shopping, we don't have to think about organizing, we can just be here and enjoy. And then also thank you, Dominique. For the delicious food. Again, it's very wholesome, very delicious food. And again, we didn't have to cook it. or maybe some of you contributed. Thank you also for all of you volunteers that contributed in the many ways that you did, so that I didn't have to do anything. And I know there are many other people that should be thanked, but I've run out of time. So anyway, until we meet again, I hope that all of these practices will be of benefit to you and lead us our paths to cross again sometime soon. All the best to you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And it's only 8:51. There's still light.
Sorry, Duke, will you need the audio and video tomorrow morning? Because
No.
no, okay, great. Because Edouard is taking the whole stuff back to Paris. So.
Oh, okay. Yes. And tomorrow morning, also, because there's nothing we would rather do, and we'll start again here at 6:30 with morning prayers and have 2 silent sessions before breakfast. And then after breakfast, no further program. And I imagine that you have to get ready to leave at that point. So just as a courtesy to the people who will be meditating here in the Gampa during that period before breakfast, please be silent if you are outside or in the kitchen, so that the people here in the Gampa who are meditating, getting in the last practices before we leave, can really have good, meaningful practices without the distraction of conversation. So, have a restful sleep and see you tomorrow.
Thank you very much.